All right, Allison, I am very excited to hop into this awkward story. So why don't you get us started? Why don't you tell us what's going on?
Okay, let me zoom in on this so I can increase the font size on my computer. Okay, here's what it says. My significant to put on my reading glasses.
Put those readers on, Allison.
Okay. My significant other and I were together for 8 years and sadly decided to go our separate ways earlier this year. A year and a half into our relationship, I purchased a home solely in my name and covered all associated costs, the down payment, inspection, etc., that we both moved into and lived in for a majority of our relationship. To provide some context, we both have good jobs, with him earning slightly more than me. I'm in my late 30s and he is in his mid 50s. We differ quite greatly on how we handle money. He's spendy and I'm a saver, and chose to keep our finances completely separate for the duration of our relationship. We split all household bills 50-50. During our time in the home, we refreshed or upgraded a majority of the spaces. I would fund major projects and he would offer to take on smaller pieces of the project as a mechanism to contribute within his as a way to contribute within his budget. For example, during the pandemic, I decided to upgrade our family room. I purchased new furniture, carpet, fireplace surround, and he had the room painted. Had the room painted. My significant other bought a new ceiling fan and installed new light switches and outlets. When we decided to go our separate ways, he sent me an email with an itemized list, which was effectively his credit card history from a big box hardware store, detailing every can of paint, outlet cover, and plant he purchased, asking me to reimburse him for the expense without taking into account depreciation and normal wear and tear that occurs over 6.5 years, as well as projects and items he chose to purchase on his own accord based on his comfort and aesthetic, some of which I would have chosen differently. I hope I'm not ever in a similar situation again, but I am dying to know how Chris and Allison would handle this situation. I ended up paying him 1/3 of the amount he was asking for, which he was not happy about, but accepted.
Oh, there is a
Oh
lot going on
gosh.
in that situation.
You know what? I feel like I missed an opportunity because I'm like, I should have sent my ex-boyfriend from college, who was incredibly unhealthy, the receipts from my therapy sessions. Like, wow. Like she got an itemized bill.
I want to know, how detailed was it? Was it like an invoice? Was it like really
It was
formal?
an invoice. Oh, I hope so.
Okay, you know what? You did the work of reading that. I think you deserve to have the first say in this one.
Okay, here's what I have to say. I have to say, and I made sure that when I was thinking about this as I was reading through it, he said that it was shortly after, right? I think this is someone got their feelings hurt.
Oh yeah.
And they are reacting, obviously they're reacting emotionally. And to me, this has less to do about her. It has more to do about him and how he's choosing to deal with it. And this just sounds like someone angry. Like, it sounds like he is mad. Maybe, I don't know who broke up with who. I don't know any of that. But regardless, to me, it sounds like he is bitter and mad. And he was just like, whoa, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show her. I'm going to get back my money I put into her house, right? That to me is like bitterness.
Yeah. Yep.
Because if you do that in like an apartment that you're leasing, if you like paint the walls, you have to then go buy more paint and paint over those walls. Like, you buy 2 things of paint, So it's.
So you said he should have gone in there and like taken all the things he added and put in the replacement back in its place.
Well, no, not that, but like, to me, I think that she says he does well with money. So if it's not a need financially, then I think it was a need emotionally for him to respond and almost just like a dig. Like, I'm going to make you pay me money. That's how I feel about it. What do you feel? What do you have to say?
Now, one thing I wished I knew was, because she said that she bought this house. She bought it. So she said, I bought it solely in my name, covered all associated costs, down payment, inspection, etc.
Yep.
I want to know, was he paying her rent while he was in there?
I would think so. We split all household bills 50-50.
So I'm assuming, right? So he was paying, something to her to be living in the house. I hope so.
Yeah, I would. Right? I would think that means that they were splitting the mortgage payment 50-50. That's how I would take it.
Okay, because I'm thinking like but it's not his house. His name is not on the mortgage, on the
Mm-mm.
deed. He has no ownership in this house.
No,
And it sounds like she didn't ask him to do any of these renovations. It sounds like maybe he just wanted to do them. Like he was like, oh,
maybe.
because
I
she said
mean,
she
yeah.
financed all the other like renovations that she wanted to do to the house, and he did some small
Hmm.
things, some small projects.
Yeah.
And
I
but
like what Michelle just said.
what did Michelle say?
You can put it up there. She says
Oh, here
she
we
should
go.
counter him with a bill for reverting the house back to good taste, like a security deposit. Like she could be like, okay, yeah, you lost your security deposit. You have a security deposit. Like our last apartment
Mm.
before we moved into our first house, we didn't get our security deposit back because the carpet had to be replaced. You
Yeah,
know?
she could say, "Look, I had to live in this ugly house because of the things you did. So reimburse me for the fact that I have to put it back to something pleasing to my eyes."
Yes,
Yeah,
except she was mature
yeah,
and decided not to do that. Like to me, it just sounds like someone got their feelings really hurt,
hmm.
and he, you know, decided to do something very, very creative, I will say.
Now I want to ask you. So I think oftentimes we're kind of hesitant to talk about money like in a formal sense when it's like someone you care about, right? Like you don't want to treat your relationship like it's a contract, right? Like you're in a business
Mhm.
agreement. But with something like this is what could happen, right? There's
Yep.
potential for these issues when you separate. How do you divide up everything? How do you handle all the financial
Mm.
things you've built together? Especially because it didn't sound like they were married. I don't think she mentioned that they were married. I think
No,
she thought
they
they
were
were
not.
just together.
Yeah. No,
So
they were just
what are your
together for
thoughts
8 years.
on like if you're a couple, you're not married, but you decided to live together, how do you handle the agreeing on what happens if you were to break up? Like do you have some type of agreement in place? Do you sign something? Like what are your thoughts on that type approaching it
Well,
that way?
so Matt and I lived together before we were married. We moved in together before we were married, and we didn't have an agreement in place because, hello, we didn't talk about money.
Yeah.
But I remember one of the things, I think maybe it was my mom or someone said, what are you going to do if you break up? So
Mm,
what I wanted to do was I wanted only his name, only one person's name to be on the lease. Because like what do you do if you break up? You have two people on the lease, right?
mm,
But he was adamant, no, we're both going to be on the lease. So we were both on the lease, but we weren't engaged when we moved in together, but we were headed that way. And I think that that's definitely really it's something you have to think about, and it's depressing to think about, right?
yeah,
It's like
right.
you're thinking about something like oh, it's destined to fail when you don't want
Exactly.
to think. And so that's how I was thinking, but Matt was like, no, we're destined to work, right? So it's hard, it's a necessary thing, I think, for you to think about, but it could be hard to actually talk about. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I think just like number one, going into a relationship, knowing that you're not doing this because you don't want it to work. You're doing this for protection because you
Mm,
don't know what life offers. What if like one of you dies? Then I don't know, like there's, like what if that happens? I don't know, but it's not, you don't go into it hoping it, but I think that that's how it's taken.
mm.
I guess. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that what is at odds is the way you have to treat a relationship versus the way you treat your finances. Because like
Mm-hmm.
for the relationship, I think you often go in with this optimistic view, right? Like
Of
you
course.
think you don't go in thinking, oh, this is going to end, in the next 6 weeks. Like, obviously if
Yeah.
you're thinking that, it's probably going to end, right?
Right.
So you go in with this, you be optimistic for the future that things are going to work out. But with finances, you have to almost always think about what is the worst thing that could happen. What do I
Yes.
do when everything falls apart and crumbles? How do I recover? How do I make sure I can still survive if I lose my job? If all of a sudden, I can't work anymore, what do I do? If I have these huge
Yeah.
expenses that pop up that I didn't expect, and those are
So
at odds with the way you think about your relationship because you don't really view them the same way.
so you're like doom and gloom. Is this what your diary entries look like?
It's not that it's
Is
doom and
it like, dear
gloom.
diary, here's what I'm going to do when an earthquake hits. This is
It's not a doom and gloom
step
thing, but
one, stand underneath the door frame. Step two, pay my security deposit on my
No, it's just that with money, you have to think about it, right? You can't be prepared unless you've considered the possibilities. Like
Hmm.
life insurance isn't a, oh, this would be nice to have. It's like if I died tomorrow,
Yeah.
how much money would my family need to live?
Hmm.
Like you have to think about those things just to be actually prepared. But in relationships, you kind of don't want to bring that energy in, right? I think that's
Yes.
what most people are like. I
Yes.
don't want to think about it that way. It's gonna be
Right.
great. We're gonna be together forever.
Which is what Matt was like for us, and I'm pretty sure how most couples are, because then that's depressing and that can lead to, what, do you not think we're going to be together? Do you
Yeah,
not think this is going to work out? And I mean, obviously they were together for 8 years. That's that's long. That's like marriage. That's, you're
that's a
with
long time.
someone for a long time. That was a long commitment. But I mean, do I think she should have paid it? I'm surprised she paid him a third of the amount.
Maybe
I
the way to just get him to leave her alone, basically. Like, here's a third,
Yeah,
get out of here.
it's just like, okay, just here's a payment to you to get you to shut up, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, would I have done that? No. If someone had done that to me, I would be upset. I would be like,
If
I
they
would
sent
be
you a
like, are you
bill?
serious? Yes. I'd be like, are you serious? Like, are we acting like, is this how this is going to be? Is this how you're going to be about this?
It's a petty move. It's a petty move.
It is a petty move, but I think that, when you're getting into relationships, and I did not think this necessarily when I was younger. I think just, age and experience and everything like that plays into your lessons learned, that
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just so tricky to combine things before you're married.
It is. It
And
really
and,
is.
and for some relationships, even combining when you're married can be tricky. Um there's reasons why people have separate finances, and I'm not against that, but I just think that, money plays such an important role in your life. You have to safeguard it and protect your finances, and do all of that, because you don't know what's going to happen.
No, you really don't. You really don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I'm thinking about like, how would you approach someone? Because this is a situation where obviously they got into this relationship. They thought things were going to work out, and they didn't. They built a life together, and it didn't turn out the way they expected it to. And I'm thinking of how can you approach this to be prepared, but without, I guess, offending the other person, because that's the balance you're trying to strike. It's, I want to be prepared and I want to think through this situation financially, but I also don't want to think this person I don't want this person to think that I'm planning on dumping them at some point. So I'm just trying to
Mhm.
protect myself.
So you're
Right.
saying, like, every time you split a bill, you're not like, I'll take this one in case we break up. That
you're like, let's make sure we keep our money separate because when I leave you, I don't want you trying to take some of my money. Like, obviously you don't want to go about it
Yeah.
like that.
I mean, I think, like, to me, if I were to go back and do it differently, I would, have one name on the lease, right? Um,
Okay, wait. I would have paused there because I was going to say, I forgot to mention this, that when Matt mentioned that, I thought that was a good idea because you do take the risk of one person having all the power if they're the only person with a name on the lease.
that's true.
Because
That
technically,
is
that's not
true.
your apartment. If you're not on the lease, you need to get up out of here.
That
Like,
is true. But then, like, to me, I was thinking, well, like, okay, if it's a year-long lease and you break up and then one person moves out, they still have to pay half of that rent. Like, what if they're like demanding half of that rent? Like, that to me would make me nervous. I guess, like, have a plan B. I don't know. That's so hard. That's so hard. I would just say, like, have very clear expectations. Like, when Matt and I lived together, we split the rent, and then we did have different bills. Like, he took me on his cell phone plan before we were married. So he could have, like, if we broke up, he could have just canceled my entire cell phone plan, taken
yeah,
my
he could have.
number, like everything. So, like, what, that wasn't necessarily wise, right? But he was like, I was getting off of my parents' plan, and he was like, "This is smart. Let's get you on my plan." I'm like, "Are you trying to rope me in so I can't leave?" No, I'm
He's like,
kidding.
I got you. You can't leave now. We're all
Um,
tied together.
yeah, but I love what Michelle said. Michelle just wrote in, my mom said, never get a place you cannot afford on your own. And that's the thing.
Mm,
Like, before Matt and I moved in together, it was actually going to be just his apartment. And I was looking for an apartment elsewhere. So he could
uh,
afford the place on his own. I could have afforded on my own. It wasn't a super nice, fancy apartment. It was a 1-bedroom apartment. And I think that that's really big to, like, really important to consider. Now, right now, like, when you're married, to say, like, something like, I don't know if I could afford this house payment on my own if something were to happen. So, like, that's kind of hard. But I think when you're dating and you're not in this a marriage, then to just be very careful. Just safeguard it. Safeguard your money. Like you have to safeguard your heart, um, because you don't want to get screwed over. You don't want to get an itemized receipt bill
You
in the mail.
don't. I was looking back here. Michelle also said a couple's prenup, pre-marriage.
Prenup,
And
pre-marriage.
I was thinking, okay, look, if you're deciding to move in together, people often think of that as like, oh, this is the next stage in our relationship. It's like growth
Mm-hmm.
in the commitment and connection between the two of you. But they often don't think about it's also a big step financially.
Mm-hmm.
And what steps should you take to secure that and be responsible about it? And I don't know, I haven't been single in a long time, so I don't know what that looks like for people these days. But I would say that it's going to be difficult. But if you're already making the difficult decision to decide to move together, you also need to incorporate some type of discussion on how things would work out, if how things will be handled if they don't work out. And I mean, look, it sounds so cold to be like, well, maybe you should just have like a quick little 1-page contract and be like, look, if this doesn't work out, this is how we agree to separate things. I mean, because outside of that, there's no legal protection for you if you break
It's
up
just
and you have to
like,
divide everything up.
we need to go see a notary. We're gonna get this notarized
But I'll
because
take you to
I'm
dinner.
not
I'll take you to
letting
dinner afterwards,
you
though.
take my TV. When all this ends, you're not getting my 70-inch TV, okay? I know you're eyeing it. So we're adding that to the contract. Gosh.
I mean,
You
I'm just
know,
saying, you kind of have to, right? Because look, if you don't make a plan,
I think you
then
should.
you gotta deal with whatever you're stuck with at the end of the day.
I think
Right.
people should lead with this on a first date.
Look, before we get to this, I brought my iPad with me. I have an NDA on here. Would you mind signing this really quickly? I don't want you talking about what's going to happen over the
Oh
next
my
several months of our
gosh.
relationship. Also, just list all your assets. I'll list all mine. That way we know what we had when we got into this.
Oh my
You-
gosh. No, this is awful. Oh goodness.
But I mean,
No.
even if it's something as basic as who gets to keep the apartment. But that's the thing. I don't know how you approach this without offending the other person. That's the very hard part. Like to have these conversations, you have to have a relationship and then take it to this level. You have to have hard conversations. But
Yeah.
I guess that means you have to pick the right person, right? You have to
I know what you
know
do.
this person.
You just say, hey, I found this really great podcast. It's called This is Awkward. You should listen to I started on episode 50. Why don't we listen to it and have a talk about it? Then you don't have to bring it up. Boom. That's what you do.
You
And then
listen to it in the car
I hope
together.
this woman who wrote in sends this to her ex so that we could say, excuse me, Mr. Man, living
Mr.
in her
Man.
house.
Moocher.
Yeah, living in her house, you're going to take the person who put a roof over your head for 8 years and send her an itemized bill. I hope my kids don't do that to me. I have to do it to my kids. I don't even know whether she should be sending you an itemized bill.
Here's
Oh,
all the property tax I paid that you didn't contribute to.
boom, right there. Well, I mean, that could have been included in like the mortgage with the escrow.
Yeah, I don't know
but,
about that part.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we need to wrap this part up. But basically, what we're saying is, Chris and I both don't know how to have this conversation. Good luck.
No,
I feel like that's where we land. Usually, I feel like we have something very positive and like powerful to share. And right now, I feel like we're both like, I don't know. It's going to be hard. Good luck.
Look, I think I'm willing to commit to this, and you don't want to commit to this answer, but I'm committing to it. I think if you decide to move in with someone, if you're deciding to combine your lives financially in this way, that you need to sit down and you need to at least write out a paragraph that states, hey, look, if this doesn't work out, this is how we're going to divide things up. Who will keep the apartment? Who will move? If you bought anything together, who will keep what? Just do it. It's going to suck, but it's the responsible thing to do.
And it might even end your relationship right then and there.
There's a potential. I mean, I feel like you, Allison. If Matt were to come to you when you were dating and said, "Hey, let's just write out an agreement in case this doesn't work out," how would you have taken that?
I was the one doing that to him.
Oh, yeah, you were actually.
Maybe I shouldn't be on the lease. What if it doesn't work out? Matt's like, I already got a ring picked out. Don't even worry about that. No need to worry about that. No, I mean,
I don't think I would be
I don't
offended.
know. I feel like I would be like, geez, do you have enough like trust in our relationship. Clearly you think this is going to fail. I don't know. Here's what I want to say. You stand on that. That's fine. You get your contract. You get your notary there, your witness. What I say is just have clear boundaries. Have clear boundaries. Keep things as separate as you possibly can. Don't mix money. Your money is so important. Your financial health is important. And for you to have a healthy relationship does not mean your financial health has to mingle. That does not have to happen to have a healthy relationship. So, should he have sent her an itemized bill? I think not. Was it an emotional response? Yes. Could he have gone to therapy instead and maybe still felt a little bit better about himself and not have gone through that? Yeah.
Ooh, you can put a little like addendum to your contract, right? And it says at the end, if I break up with you, I will have to pay for your first 3 therapy sessions. That way you can work through these emotions because I'm not giving you any money. There you go. You can add that to your contract.
Wow. I really feel like maybe you should go on and be like the new host of the Bachelor or the Bachelorette. You could be like the new Chris Harrison because I feel like you give great advice.
Right. I'm having all of them signing contracts. The moment they step on this property, like, look, you agreed to be here, so I'm gonna need you all to sign this because we're not giving you anything.
Chris, you already have the same name as Chris Harrison. He got fired. So
why did he get fired? For giving bad advice. He didn't have people signing contracts like they should have been.
Racial issues.
Oh well, yeah, he needed to go then. Get him out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, because he was saying some stupid junk about, being essentially being racist. So we need him out. So let's replace him with a better Chris.
Yeah, I've never seen the show before, so I don't know what's happening. But I'm
sure
I can figure it out when I get there.
I want you to watch Sean Lowe and Catherine. Sean Lowe's season with Catherine, because
who?
Oh, I just told you who won. Oh no! Don't.
Oh, spoilers! Oh no! How will I ever get to enjoy the show knowing this information, man? Whew. I guess I won't watch it now.
Let's take a break.